to the Dillweed Society Film Podcast. My name is Max, and my favorite movie is Knives Out.
My name is Isabella, and my favorite movie is The Passion of Joan of Arc. I just watched that for class, so I'm not trying to be pretentious.
It's pretty good, though.
It is really good.
My name is JoAnne, and my favorite movie is The Oxbow Incident.
I didn't know that was one of your favorites.
It's like always on my top 5
Yeah,
list.
it's always one of the top.
You and Dad both really like
The
that
Oxbow
movie.
Incident and Legally Blonde. Mamma Mia.
I do like all of those.
Those are good.
And the one I'll never get over, not winning Best Picture, Shawshank Redemption.
Oh,
True.
yeah.
Lost to like
Yeah.
Forrest Gump or something.
Yeah, that was the
Another
biggest.
Tom Hanks movie.
First of all,
Tom Hanks is in that?
I'm pretty sure he's in
He
Shawshank
is.
Redemption.
no, he was in
No.
Forrest Gump.
Who's the guy in Shawshank Redemption that looks like him?
Matt Damon?
Warren Beatty?
No.
Who's the guy in
Um,
Shawshank Redemption?
It's Tim Robbins. Look it up.
Oh, that looks exactly like Matt Damon.
No.
You cannot tell me that's not Matt
Let me
Damon.
look, let me look.
I
It's
don't
just got
know.
the same haircut that Matt Damon has
Maybe.
sometimes. One of my very, very favorite movies, Wizard of Oz. Put that
Wizard
on
of
my
Oz,
list.
yeah.
West Side Story. There's just so many. It's kind of hard to...
Yeah, luckily me and Max get to say a new one every week. That's our
I know.
shtick.
Well,
'Cause-
I'm trying to get people to watch the Oxbow Incident because I think it's very poignant and I think it's really applicable to every era.
A long time ago, I asked a bunch of people on Facebook what their favorite movie was. Aunt Diane said Grease, The Wizard of Oz,
Yep.
It's a Wonderful Life,
Oh, It's a Wonderful Life, yes.
Sound of Music,
Sound of Music, yes. That's in my top 2.
West Side Story, Philadelphia Story.
Oh, I love the Philadelphia Story too. It's like all my favorite movies.
yeah, I know. Well, you put the Philadelphia Story because it says.
Oh, that was smart of me.
Grandma Cody put Being John Malkovich, which shocked me.
That's one of her... Really?
You know, she likes quirky films.
Yeah, she does like weird movies.
She also likes, what's the bowling one that's so cool?
Big Lebowski.
Big Lebowski.
Yeah,
she
how
loves
about
that.
Yeah.
But you know a shocking movie that she likes that I do not understand?
The Mel Gibson one, Apocalypto. She likes that one. I know she does.
That is a little strange and interesting. No, that wasn't the one I was thinking of. It's that one Christmas movie that's
A Christmas Story. Mm-hmm.
Oh, the annoying one with the annoying children.
yeah, where the kids stick.
Oh,
their
I
tongue in
hate
it.
that
I hate
movie.
that movie. She
Yeah, I
loves
hate
that movie.
That's
I'm like,
so weird.
and she'll be with us at Christmas, and I'm gonna be like, we can't watch
No.
it. I love you, but there's a limit.
There's something about like suburban movies with family movies that I hate.
Me too.
They're also gross.
I know everybody's mean and
Everyone's
awful.
mean. Yeah. Speaking of Christmas and holidays and religious things, we're talking about Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul
Yes, we
today,
are.
which is a new movie from the Ebo twins,
Hmm.
directed by Adama Ebo, and I will give you a synopsis before we start. In the aftermath of a huge scandal, Trinity Childs, the first lady of a prominent Southern Baptist megachurch, attempts to help her pastor husband Lee Curtis Childs rebuild their congregation.
I think that it's interesting. It's right that they did it, but that she is the main character of the movie, and that the husband is sort of a side character, and they're not equal main characters in this. Because I think that is how the movie is, even though from the cover you wouldn't think that.
Yeah. So, a couple of questions. I need to know the ground rules. Spoilers?
We have a pre-spoiler section, and then we have the spoiler wall comes down, and
We're kind of loose with it, though. Like, we
Generally-
kind of just...
if it's something that we think, that use your own judgment. Like,
Yeah.
do you think that someone's experience of the movie would be diminished by saying something in the pre-spoiler section? Then leave it to the post.
You know, there's a lot of things at the beginning of the movie, especially if you don't know what you're going to see.
Yeah.
That right at the beginning, it takes you a little while to figure out. You're like, wait a minute, what is this? And I almost feel like you feel that way through about maybe a third to a half of the movie.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you're like, wait, was this a comedy? Or is it a drama? Or, like, what am I supposed to... Who's the main character here? Like, you try to anticipate always where a film's going. And I was kind of like,
I agree with you.
right?
What were you going to say, Bella?
What?
It sounded like you were going to say something.
Just breathing.
Oh. I liked how confusing it was in that way. Like, I went into this only having seen the cover of it, and barely that. And I thought that it was really fun to like figure out what is it, because the first thing I got, I guess, when I was seeing it, that I don't think would be diminished if you knew about it, is that it's a mockumentary.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't know that going in. And that's the first thing you see. It's her talking to the camera, and that like immediately grabbed my attention, because you don't really see that in a film format. You know, you really just see it with TV shows like The Office or like Parks and Rec. Isn't Abbott Elementary also?
Yes.
A mockumentary.
Mockumentary,
I
yeah.
love
Like
that.
so that format has like persisted throughout the television sphere. So it's really interesting to see it in a movie.
We have seen it before in a couple movies.
Like what?
They've been since the 90s. Best in Show.
Best
is the
in
last
Show,
one.
and then
That's a good point.
right, and then what's the more famous one?
Goes to
Spinal
11
Tap?
Spinal Tap.
This is Spinal Tap.
Yeah. Right? But we haven't seen it in a long time.
In movies.
Yeah, and those are like I think of like as primarily comedies.
Right.
Or like primarily just like skit movie type things, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas this I think has a larger story.
Yeah.
And they're recounting the stories throughout. Like things are happening in the moment rather than like Spinal Tap, you're like thinking back on the shows or something.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Although, you know what's different
What?
that I just realized is this movie went between being a mockumentary and then being just a straight up movie.
Yeah.
It's a hybrid. Sometimes it's a mockumentary, and then sometimes it's just you're watching a scene with those two in a bedroom or in an office where the filmers aren't in the room.
And sometimes you don't know.
The aspect ratio does change. And the lighting and color grading changes. So unless you're not looking at that. But what I was thinking was like, usually you don't have that shift. So I was picturing in my head, I was wondering what the movie would look like without that transition from what we see on the camera and what's like away from the camera. Because I think this movie has a lot to do with what we think we know and like assumptions that we make and what we will never know about people or situations. And I think that fits a lot with like the fake documentary, because it's like they can frame it in a certain way, and when it shifts outside of the documentary, you're like, oh wait, is this reality? Like, what are we actually gonna know? So I was wondering what it would look like if it didn't have those shifts.
Interesting. A lot of what you just said.
There were also transitions where the camera didn't move, but the color grading changed. Do you remember the one? There's one closer towards the end.
Well, let's go back a little bit.
Yeah, I was
and
gonna say
Was the intro.
let's start at the beginning, because like what I think was the best thing about this movie was the two main actors are the most extraordinarily talented actors with a range that goes from, you know, hilarious comedy to like really dramatic acting. Yeah, I mean, and in addition to being phenomenal actors, they are also like the most charismatic people. So I don't even care if they were just like reading a phone book. Watching them on screen, I cannot take my eyes away. They are so charismatic, each of them individually. And then you layer on top of that the fact that they had this most electric chemistry between them. And you know, when I watched it, I was like, they seem like they're ad-libbing. There's like such a good vibe between the two of them.
Right.
That like I almost didn't even care what the story was or what you know the script was or whatever. I just I love watching each of them individually, and then I love watching the two of them together even more.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how you get that kind of you can't manufacture that. That just is there or it's not there.
Yeah.
And they were phenomenal together.
Their acting makes the movie like it's truly astounding. And I think especially like Regina Hall as the main character, she has so much emotion, but sometimes she doesn't even say anything, but you can tell like how she feels in a moment. Like she has to put on like a brave face, because she does all the work for the church, but the husband is the person that you see, and the preacher or the pastor. And I think like what you said about their charisma makes a lot of sense given their job. Like, that is their job, is they have to be charismatic and like run this mega church.
The character's job.
Yeah.
His whole success. They went from a church of a couple hundred people to over 25,000 people, they say.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole success was built on his charisma, right?
Yeah, right.
And this showbiz element to their Sunday services. But she is the one that was, masterminds the whole thing and makes sure, the church is growing and that all the parishioners are taken care of. She's got the biggest job of the two of them.
She's the one who organized the making of the mockumentary, or in their world, it's the documentary of them reestablishing the church because they
I thought he
shut
did.
down.
He hired them, and she was skeptical.
Yeah, skeptical because
But then once they got in, he's like, "It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great," and she's like, "I don't think so."
Yeah, right.
But then once they're in, he insisted, and she's gonna make sure it's gonna be okay,
Right.
or at least she tries to.
Right. They're doing the documentary kind of to reestablish their rapport with the public because they've had this scandal. But footage can be shaped. They want to kind of preserve the way that they look. And so oftentimes they'll be like, you can shut off the camera now, but you can't really do that.
That, I think, was a very telling part of this, was that they worked so hard, as you said, to really curate the way that they present themselves, their whole lives, right? They're really into designer clothes. They have a whole scene that's about this closet that is filled with designer clothes and shoes and church hats and all these things. So they're used to presenting a certain way. Mm-hmm. But also, the pastor has been presenting himself a certain way to the public that it's misrepresenting who he actually is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You see? So I think that cut the camera, we'll retake that scene. It's so much a part of who they are too.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's part of what makes the acting shine so much is that despite how terrible the guy seems to be, you can't help but kind of be on his side when he's so excited about things.
Yeah.
I know it's he's terrible, but you love him. You're rooting for him, See, that's
come
on.
the thing. The film was made so that you root for these people.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they were in a low point and they're working towards rebuilding. But throughout the film, you're kind of led on to understand what the scandal was exactly. But you don't know that at first, and they kind of get you at first as if we were members of their church, but who knew them beforehand, who loved their charisma, who loved them as people, and then you find out slowly, kind of in pieces, what actually happened, but you're still torn. You don't know whether you should still root for them or not.
Right.
And I think that's a very interesting way to direct the narrative.
Yes. And that is interesting because, I feel at the end, particularly, Trinity is talking to Anita, the filmmaker, who doesn't speak throughout the film until the very end, and then you hear her voice. That was an interesting choice. But when Trinity looks into the camera and is talking to Anita, and she's saying, you judge us or whatever, it was like she was talking to us in the theater. She's looking straight at you in the middle, and at Anita, but it's really staring at the audience and saying, you judging us, and I don't know why you think you're any better. We all have stuff. And then she turns and she says, or you, and she turns apparently to a camera guy or a boom mic guy, and then turns the other way to you. But when you're watching it in a theater, she's looking at each and every one of the people in the audience. What makes you think that you're I'm just trying to do my best here, and
she directs the audience, saying she says whoever people are going to see this,
right?
At that point I was oh my gosh, is this real? It feels so real. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think she's right.
What?
I think she feels that way, but when she says everyone has problems or whatever, she's right in that respect, but it's not, we're in a position to judge her, I think.
Why?
Well, yes, we are. And I think the part that we're not spoiling yet, but there is a lot to judge just for people who haven't seen this movie yet. Like I said, it's all the worst things about these mega churches that we've heard of over the years, where they've got private jets, and they, live an extremely lavish lifestyle. They drive a Bentley. They've got a closet full of, what was his line about Sunday service? Do you know what says Easter?
You know what really says Easter? Prada.
Prada.
But not the periwinkle Prada, white Prada.
Trying to decide what suit to wear. And it's like, these are the things, it's like all the trappings of like them just rolling in dough, and it's prosperity gospel stuff. And so he didn't say like, let's think about Easter. What says Easter? Jesus. It wasn't going there. He's like thinking about the clothes he's going to wear.
Mm-hmm.
And, there are people that are hurting and need, help, and that just, it wasn't where they were coming from. It was more of a sort of a, like, if you want to be rich and successful like me, come to this church. And
well, I also think, like, there is an element to church that is dressing up. And I think
that's true.
Like, some people, especially for Easter, so I think it's taking these levels of what church currently is, especially, and a mega church is, and kind of putting it to the extreme. Because they are extreme. Yeah.
Trinity has a line in the middle of it where she says, I guess you could go to church just wearing a t-shirt and jeans, but we also have another saying in the church: God don't like ugly.
That was such a funny line. I know, there were so many funny lines in this.
I do think it's a really well written movie.
Yeah.
So here's my big question.
Yes.
Okay, these two ad-libbed a ton. You can see it. I mean, it's a lot of ad-libbing, and I think that's super fun. I love it. And I know Regina Hall is a riot. Like, she's such a funny person. But, like, was that line ad-libbed? Like, we don't know what was written, what was ad-libbed. I mean...
Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever know. It's so consistent. Yeah, I just think that the dialogue is really good in the movie, whether it was written or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the one scene that I wanted to mention, which I thought was hilarious. So, they have 5 loyal parishioners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
The Faithful Five.
The Faithful Five is what they call them. So when the scandal went down, everybody left the church, but they have 5 parishioners that stuck with them.
Yeah.
And it's so cute. It's like a mother and daughter who, the daughter is, I don't know how old, like 8,
Yeah.
something like that, and a young mother who just comes to church as much as possible because it's like free babysitting in a way for her kid. It keeps her kid busy. There's an older couple who are hysterical, and she's like, back in my day, like, you didn't just pick up and leave, and then she'd go into these crazy stories about all the things that happened in her church growing up. And the 5th one is a young theology student, right? Like, he's in seminary school.
Yeah.
And I wasn't quite sure why he was sticking around, but
I didn't really know.
he was there too.
Yeah.
The pastor, what's his name?
Lee Curtis.
Lee Curtis, yeah. Pastor Lee Curtis. Lee Curtis Childs, right? He's practicing his big comeback, and so he's going to try get his legs, or get him. What's the phrase? Like, you get your dive back in the pool.
I don't know. You
I don't know.
create these
Get your
funny
legs wet.
Put your legs in the pool. I don't know.
Dip his toes in.
Dip his toes in. I say get your legs wet.
Throw some water on there.
It's a little bit more than dipping your toes. So he gets up to do this sermon in front of the 5 faithful, and they're feeling the spirit, and they close their eyes or whatever. Trinity's got her eyes closed and she hands up, and they're singing and whatever. And she opens her eyes, and he's like stripped down. He took his
shirt off, yeah.
His suit jacket, his shirt, his tie, his undershirt.
Yeah.
And he's standing there, like, the guy is very fit, he's a fit man. But he's
It's
standing...
part of his persona.
It's part of his persona,
yeah.
exactly. So he's standing there, like, ripped bodice or whatever, like, in front of and she's like, what are you doing? And then she realizes, okay, part of this show is that he's going to get rebaptized.
Right.
So they go up to the baptismal font, or the baptismal pool.
Yeah.
And she's going to dip him into the pool and pray and say, like, he's going to be born again.
Yeah.
Again. She dips him under the water. She's holding his nose and holding him under. And she's praying and then it's like it lasts a little too long, and then it's like way too long. Like, she actually wants to kill him.
Or it's like it starts out she's happy that he's silent. She wants a few moments of silence,
Yeah.
and then she's just like, what if I just keep holding? Yeah.
I thought that was really, really funny.
Yeah.
And then it's like they do the like 1, 2, 3 jokes. So
Yeah.
like within it comes out and they're like, and they're like, and I'm born again. And then it's like, they're both like, and amen. And they have this whole side like, I thought we agreed we were going to say
Amen.
amen.
Well, amen is like kind of cool now.
And then they say, all right, we both agree and we understand each other.
Right.
Ready? You want to do it again? And they do it again in the same way.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's one of those scenes where they said, oh, let's cut. You can re-roll that. We'll redo that one.
Can they
It's like-
redo the entire baptism? Like you gotta get reborn again. Yeah,
It
that's
was
so
very,
funny.
very funny. There were a lot of funny scenes like that I just thought were great. But I will say, so can we go on to some things that we did not like?
Sure.
Yeah.
As I said, when we walked out of the theater, which just little aside in parentheses, I love being back in the movie theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could not love it more. Like
Yeah.
I'm just like literally like holding myself back from giggling from being so tickled pink that we are in this movie theater. I just love it. So we walked out of the theater and I said it could have used some tightening up, right? That's how I felt. I felt like a lot of those scenes that were ad-libbed, and like it kills you to cut comic gold, right? You're like, film footage just feels too precious, and you're like, no, but that was such a good thing. But honestly, the story could have been improved dramatically by having some of those scenes cut a little bit shorter and tightened up a bit. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Are there any examples that felt like too long to you, or was it just the whole thing in general?
Yeah, it felt like there was like a lot of like just white space and things went on. Just a little, we got the point here.
It didn't feel super long to me. Maybe a little bit, but
Yeah, I didn't feel that either. But like once Mom said that, I could see it being cut down a little bit because it's only 90 minutes.
No, I thought it was 100 or...
98 minutes, but that's including credits.
It feels longer than that.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it definitely feels longer than...
So pacing wise, it felt like we were in there over 2 hours.
Yeah.
Are they new directors or new writer directors?
They've worked with people. I don't know of any other films that on Letterboxd doesn't say they've done anything else.
Okay, because that does feel about right. Because they were so. I'm so glad that they got these two amazing actors, and we haven't even talked about those cute supporting actors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a young couple, adorable.
I love them.
Oh.
Any scene with them, I was like, this is gold.
Should we...
I want to know everything.
Yeah.
Before we go on, should we just say recommendations before we talk about just like...
Recommendations.
No, I would just say like, yeah, go see it. It's a fun movie. Before we get into like the specific spoilers, go see it and then come back here and listen to the rest of this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unless you like spoilers, I often like listening to podcasts before I've seen the movie.
True.
Okay.
So the church that they are kind of rivals with is a younger couple, Pastor and Pastor Sumter. And
I don't know why I love that so much.
Well, because they keep bringing it up. It's like pastor and pastor, like...
right,
Yeah.
Because it's not
she's
normal
a
for a woman
Pastor
to be a
Sumter
pastor.
and Pastor Sumter.
Right.
Yeah. And I loved them because they're kind of like the newer. They probably were raised going to.
They were, they said.
What's their church called? It's Wander to Greater Paths.
Wander to Greater Paths.
Wander to Greater Paths. It doesn't roll right off the tongue, but yeah, Wander to Greater Paths. Yeah, so they probably grew up going to that church and just really looked up to this older, who were the hot young couple, Trinity and, why can I never remember his name?
Trinity and Lee Curtis.
Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
I blocked him. They probably grew up going to that church and just like really looked up to them because they were the it couple.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So then they decided to become pastors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but now they're rival churches because
Lee Curtis was grooming young male parishioners to have sex with them.
And this is based on a true story of a mega church pastor in Georgia, in Atlanta, Georgia, or outside of Atlanta, Georgia. So this is what this was loosely based on, was that
Right.
story. This was the original guy and Pastor Lee Curtis were both very, anti-gay and from the pulpit, but then had this secret life where
we don't know the details in this movie.
we don't.
Yeah.
We don't. But the problem, he was really taking advantage of his role and then like kind of wooing them with cars and fancy houses or whatever. That's what that kid says in the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the awful thing that we learn, 75% into this movie, 60% into this movie?
Yeah, it takes until pretty far in, because you'd think that he was just having an affair with an adult woman or something like that.
Right, that's what I thought the whole time.
Yeah.
And then there was some little piece that
There's hints.
There are
throughout.
hints, yeah.
When she sees those boys while
She's out.
Trinity is buying a hat.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's when you're like, who are they? And then the next scene is the basketball scene, which
Well,
we talk.
no, before that even though
Before
we
that,
know
yeah.
because first off, we hear radio like of people talking about the controversy, and they're like, "How could the wife stand this? Like, if I were her, I would leave. Like, you have to have respect for his wife."
Mm.
And then there's the bedroom scene, which I think is very telling. And
That's
then
when I knew.
yeah, that's when I knew. And then right after that is the sermon where he is like, "You have to be faithful. You can't be." He's
right.
yeah. He says
Right,
he's
right.
like anti-gay.
Right.
And I was like, that's nail in the head. And
Yeah.
we whispered, we were like, he's gay.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the bedroom scene, we won't go into detail, but he couldn't perform.
Mm.
And she was trying, she's really trying to save this marriage. She's trying so hard to put their life back together after all of this. And he swears he's changed, whatever. But he's still not, that's when we knew. We were like, okay, maybe that's the issue here. But then, yes, later, Max, it becomes extremely obvious because she sees these young men who are probably now 19.
Yeah, still pretty young, but
Yeah, 19, 20. And then right after that, there's a scene in the basketball court, which you mentioned.
Right. So the whole first, like, probably 3 minutes of that basketball court scene, the camera doesn't cut at all. It goes from all the way on the other side of the court, slowly moves forwards, like dollies in, to them having a conversation, and then
I thought
rotates
that was interesting
around
too.
them. It's more interesting in my opinion because they don't do that a ton throughout the rest of the movie, and so it becomes very clear and very tense, that
Yeah.
scene.
It's, in reality, it's not on the mockumentary camera.
No.
Because he's talking to the guy.
No.
Yeah.
So the young man that we're talking about, he's the boom mic operator,
Mm-hmm.
sound guy. He's just packing up his equipment in the church gym, which is this very big, fancy gym. Pastor Lee Curtis Childs comes in and he says, you know, he's just like making small talk. He's going to bounce around the basketball. He's like, "Hey, you want to play?"
Takes off his shirt.
Takes off his shirt again. And then the guy's like, no, I don't really play basketball. He's like, "Okay, well then you can rebound me." And then you're like, we all know where this is going. Like I was like, oh my God, no. Because come on, like he just practically lost his church. They had to shut down, and they've been working so hard to do this plan for this big comeback. And here he is flirting, is what he's doing. He is flirting with this young man, and I just like it was a lot to sit through that, but it was intentionally tense.
It was tense for sure.
Though also that part of that scene in the background, really blurred out in the far background, you see Trinity walk past the glass wall,
Yes.
and she just stops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's only, like it starts from that where she is. And then it zooms in, and then it cuts, and then it rotates, and you see her. So maybe she was there, like, the whole time.
Yeah.
She was
Like,
watching.
that was from her perspective from outside the glass. Like, we were looking at what he was doing from that far.
That poor woman, I swear.
But that
I
scene,
know
you
she
also
did.
sort of see how sad and repressed his life is.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that I got for both of the main characters in that scene, and then the scene where Trinity's talking to her mother.
Yeah.
Just how like frustrating and repressed
Yeah.
their lives must both be, because they're not allowed to be like, they're not allowed to have any support from the people who care about them.
Yeah.
For
Just
being who
be
they are.
Who they are.
Yeah.
Right. That is true. And Trinity, like, for her, she just, she grew up in the church. Her parents are really strict, and her mom, this conversation she was saying, "I don't think I can do this. I have been working and working and working to try to save this marriage, and I don't think I can do this anymore." And her mom just absolutely no empathy whatsoever.
Sometimes my daughter can be so stupid. That's like what she says to her or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my. So this gal is just, she's trying. She did all the right things, and she thought she was marrying a lead pastor, and she tried to follow the rules, and she worked so hard and built this church alongside him, and then she's like, why is my life not working out?
Yeah.
This is so sad.
Did you catch that she converted him after they married? She was Baptist and he was Anglican when they married. She says that.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah. Remember the joke at the end? She's like, you want to hear something? I don't know if it might have been at the beginning. She's like, you want to know something really hard though was is she makes a joke to the camera.
Oh,
remember?
Yeah. I didn't even pay attention to that because I thought she was just trying to put on a light story and a happy face because she was really about to cry.
But what is right? Like she set this whole thing up for him to become this.
Wow.
To become this super pastor. Yeah.
There's so much behind like what she can show to the public.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, that was crazy. And sad for both of them. But actually, it like we're telling the sad story, but somehow they made this into a comedy, which is
I think most good comedies have a lot like very dramatic elements to them, unless you're looking at like an Adam Sandler comedy.
Right.
Like
comedy.
Most Jordan Peele movies, I would say, are comedies, but also horror movies. Like they're really dark. I think his company produced this movie, but I think comedy is a really good way to tell a story like this because you have two very polar opposite ends of it. Like you have comedy, but you also have like what's at stake. And I think those things can like interplay really well with this story. And I think also that parallels like we read the director's statement on their website.
Yeah.
And it's very clear like she was really conflicted about how to feel about what had actually happened in her church. She both was like, how could the church not do anything more about this? And also, the church is still doing great things.
Right.
And like showing both of those. And I think that's why the director wanted to tell the story through the perspective of the wife of the person going through this, because she's so connected.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know how to feel. She's so conflicted.
That came through in the movie too.
Yeah.
Because you, like as we said, you are rooting for these people.
Yeah.
Also, like, he even said this. The character, like, he knows he's like done something bad, but he also like did a lot of good too, and he feels like that's been lost in this, and he doesn't want to lose that. Like that to him, that's part of his legacy. He actually did help people.
Yeah.
And the church apparently did help people. It's just, it's all kind of...
Yeah. Like, his passion for the church, I think, is still very apparent throughout the movie. It's just, like, power, and to be in that place of power can often corrupt people.
Yes.
And the situations you're put in society can corrupt you, like, and can make you do horrible things.
They're standing, like, holding up this sign that says "Honk for Jesus."
They rolled out a Jesus statue.
A Jesus statue from like the like storage room.
Yeah.
And he's been standing in the shade the whole time while she's been holding up this sign.
Waving it around like it's a car wash or something, trying to get attention from the drivers that are driving past, saying, we're grand reopening this weekend. Woohoo!
And trying to get people excited, so they honk for Jesus.
He's like, we haven't been getting a lot of honks. So I think we know what we need. And they had set up earlier that the church had a bunch of arts programs. They had just like listed off 4 of them, and one of them was like religious miming. It was praise miming.
Praise miming, yes.
Yeah.
Praise miming. They had a praise miming team.
And so he's standing there and he's like, we know what we need. And then he lifts up one hand and the saturation like goes through the roof in the camera. And the depth of field on the lens gets like very shallow, so the entire background suddenly goes into like is blurry. And he starts like praise miming, like
with his hands.
And she's just totally uninterested in it. But then
she was just like it was terror, because she knows what he wants. He wants her to do the miming, and she's like, no.
Yeah.
No.
Which means wearing like a white like face paint
Right, and here's the other thing. She was out there, she dressed in her Sunday best. She was trying to look really cute and pretty. Out there being a cheerleader for him, saying like, Honk, come on this Sunday, yay. And he's going to humiliate her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And make her put on mime face and possibly ruin her clothes
Right.
But like, and put her on a street corner in a clown face.
Yeah. And I thought I think in those ending moments, I told Mom this after, I was like, one of them is going to jump in front of a car that goes by because they are both at their limit in that moment, right before it cuts to her face with the white paint.
Yeah.
I thought she was going to jump. She's worked so hard. And right before that, too, when he's like, you got to do this. And she's like, no, you're like, that's insanity. And he's like, no, this is just your ego. Like, you have to, like, do this for the church. And she's like, she's done everything for the church.
Right.
Like, it's his ego that's making him do that.
That's
Right.
exactly
like, it's his ego that drives him to do these, like, stupid things.
Yeah, and what do you say ego is edging God out?
Yeah.
But he's the one that with the giant ego.
Right.
Didn't even think about her, and he does that throughout the movie.
He doesn't think of her once.
Never thinks of her. She does it, but she's so sad.
Mm-hmm.
And she tells the camera, she's like, his first lady puts me out there like that.
So horrible.
And she's like, I'm a leader in this community, and this is what the praise mimers are like a sideshow, and she's just had it.
Yeah.
And then at the end, then she walks away, and she's just like losing it to the camera at the end. And
Because the camera keeps following her.
what she said, she had a line at the end that was so good.
Kill
I'd
him, then
sooner
leave him.
kill my husband than leave my husband. Yeah, when it's usually I'd rather kill myself than leave my husband, but I'd rather kill him. Yeah, she is like, yeah.
It's just like, it just rolls out, and she's just like, I'd rather kill my, and it was all that, she really would like to kill him. He was, and this church.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I built this church.
Mm-hmm.
And, and so this is what she's stuck with.
Yeah.
I wonder what happens later.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Because they reopen and nobody comes because the other church heard wind that they were reopening a week early and changed their reopening to a week earlier on purpose.
That was, okay, so that, we never did talk about those two.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Or just briefly.
Yeah.
Pastor and pastor.
Pastor and pastor. What's their last name?
Sumter.
Yeah, anyway, they're the cutest things, but they are kind of cutthroat. They want to keep all those parishioners, and they are building a brand new, big, fancy church, and they're going to have this grand reopening at the same day on Easter, the same day as the Wander to Greener Paths or whatever. Greater Paths. And Pastor Lee Childs and Trinity go over to talk to them, and they think they're coming for marriage counseling because they were doing marriage counseling.
Yeah.
And they're like,
I think that was kind of a slight on them. They didn't actually think they were coming for that, but they wanted to like poke fun at them.
It was one of those like very southern, like really sweet,
Tense,
but they're kind of mean, like bless your heart.
Yeah, like the worst thing you can say as an insult in the South is bless your heart.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They're like, well, we're just so, honored to be able to,
To be able to help you too.
Yeah, to be able to help you too, and to be able to give your parishioners a home when they, after all the, I mean, they're just sick, sticky, sweet, but they knew exactly what they were doing. So, Pastor Childs and Trinity then decided, we'll open a week early. And then the young couple opens a week early. And they were just like, oh, I didn't know that they had changed their date. They really seemed to be set on Easter, but they knew. They knew.
Yeah.
They're just gonna like take that heel and grind them into the ground.
For sure.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. They were really cute.
Yeah, but it does end like really open-ended. It's unresolved, which I think is good given the story, because you don't know how to feel. It's kind of left up to the audience.
Yeah, after she's just kind of like accused us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in that regard, I think it's good. I just and there's so much I liked about it. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about, because it wasn't like I left it that was a great movie. There were so many great moments. I adore these actors.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a first film to me. It feels like things could have been tightened up. Maybe storyline, a little, I don't know. There's so much that was good. It's just, it feels like maybe a first swipe.
I wish it would have ended right after her speech to the audience. You know? Yeah. I always want to cut films short, I think, because that was my problem with Bodies, Bodies, Bodies also. I was like, I wish it would have ended a little bit earlier.
5 seconds earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. We never would have found out that nobody came to their reopening.
Well, I think we would have known. I knew. Everyone knew.
I know.
Yeah, it's not like crowds were going to come. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was sad.
Yeah. If it felt like a first film in some respects, I think that all of the individual people who worked on it felt very experienced. Not just the acting. I think the acting was outstanding, but also the cinematography. And it was not bombastic cinematography. It was just very competent and used lots of different techniques to their effect. I thought that the overall narrative played well with the humor, to my taste at least. So, yeah, I think that all of the individual parts of it were very impressive to me and came together pretty well for me, although not perfectly.
Well, I don't agree that it necessarily feels like a first film. I think there's also a difference between a debut feature and a student film. With a debut feature film, this feels very, it's usually, you have great people to work with, and the acting and editing and all the technical aspects of it are really well developed.
Yeah.
I think the structure of it in terms of writing is also really well developed. I think where I see the perhaps first film thing that maybe Mom was talking about is if you write and direct your movie, you're going to be very wary about what is taken in or out of the movie.
Yeah.
And I think maybe you want to keep all the scenes
because
you wrote all the scenes and they make sense in your mind, but maybe you've worked on it for so long that you're I don't even want to let go of anything.
I think that's it.
That makes a lot of
But
sense.
I loved the movie. I didn't even think that it could be a first film until looking up more about it afterwards. Do we want to get into ratings? Just last thoughts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Normally we sandwich the guest in
All
our
right.
ratings. So,
All right.
Bella, would you like to go first?
Wait, how many numbers are we?
Out of 5.
Out of 5.
And
you
Out
can
of
go
100?
4.5,
you do it half stars.
3.5.
Ooh, okay.
All right, Bella, what would you rate this movie?
I was in between a 4 and a 4.5. I ended up giving it a 4.5 on Letterboxd. Yeah.
Mom, what would you give it?
So I don't have a history of rating on this scale, which,
Yeah, you kind of have to develop that.
yeah, I'm going to give it a 3
Okay. Cool.
because I loved a lot of it. I'm not sorry I saw it. I think you have to see it in a movie theater, folks, if you are going to see this movie because of the pacing. I think you're going to get distracted if you watch this at home. I probably would have walked away many times because I would have been like, okay, got it, caught up. I think you have to see it in the theater if you can. But I'm going to say a 3 because I liked so much about it, and then a 3 because there's things I think could have been a little bit better.
I disagree with your point. Maybe people your age would go do that. I feel like, for me at least, it was very refreshing, and from the first get-go, it had my attention. This is a movie that I would not turn off.
Really? You wouldn't be doing other things on your phone,
No.
cleaning your room while you're watching it?
No. I
Really?
think I was so, in awe of, I think the stylization of it really got me, so.
Well, the only reason I wouldn't walk away is because I wouldn't want to miss a quip or a look
Right,
or
exactly.
a touch between
It's
those
so
two.
funny, yeah.
Those two are so
You can't
adorable.
look away when they're on screen.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Okay, Max, what's your rating?
I would give this movie, and I did give this movie, a 4.5 stars.
Woo.
Yeah.
Wow, you guys both rated it really high.
And that's in comparison to, it says a 3.2 average rating.
What?
And so it did not get a lot of good reviews. People are not loving
3.2
this.
out of 5?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm right in the average.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting, but you guys both really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I thought it was really hilarious. Did I tell you guys I was the only person in the theater when I saw this?
No.
What?
There was nobody there was literally nobody in the theater, such that they turned on the lights to the theater.
They did that to us too.
10 minutes before the movie ended.
They did that to us
too.
Yeah.
They might have miscalculated the length of the movie.
I think they did.
But I was literally but I thought it was hilarious. Like, I was really laughing out loud. I wish there were more people so I didn't feel so weird laughing out loud. In the theater.
Yeah.
If it were just a comedy, I think I would have given it something closer to what I gave like Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that it was the writing let the actors have these moments where they were really pushed to their limit made it like a character-driven drama in a way that I really like.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen a comedy that has done that in a long time.
Yeah.
And that was really unique. And I think that uniqueness and impressiveness are like the two things which make movies very highly rated in my book.
Yeah, I would agree that it's very unique. I think that's what grabbed me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like not expecting that at all.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. And I'm kind of curious, just like business wise, like, so this has to have a pretty low box office, like,
Probably. Yeah.
Right?
I can't
And that
imagine.
I was the only person.
Yeah.
It was a Tuesday, but like,
and I just think like, it doesn't have a lot of buzz. It had a ton of buzz around Sundance. I couldn't get tickets. It was sold out immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I think people were really hopeful that this was going to be like a great, and I think probably Jordan Peele put his name behind it, a couple other famous people, and then you have
Daniel
these,
Kaluuya.
yeah, exactly. And then you've got these great stars in it, so I think there was a lot of buzz when it was premiering at the festivals.
Yeah.
But then probably didn't get much after that because of the three. It doesn't appeal to everybody.
Yeah.
what were their comparative budgets?
If I had to guess, maybe 3 million. Stars are probably the highest paying, like, for the money.
Yeah.
And then renting a church, but it's very low cast.
Just renting a church, which is probably not expensive.
Yeah.
And
It's a gigantic church.
I know, but,
So what? There's a million churches.
yeah. And also, maybe they're not using it on a Tuesday.
Exactly.
And then that house, that beautiful, big, huge
Right,
house.
the mansion house, yeah.
That was the only...
Probably film their scenes in a day, 2 days.
But the mall was probably closed.
yeah.
Hi everyone, I just wanted to pop in and remind you all that our website is being updated with a link to become associate to be able to nominate and vote on this year's films. There's information about new movies coming out and our podcast episodes and a lot of other stuff, so you can find that at dillweedsociety.com and at Dillweed Society on Twitter and Instagram. Please get in contact with us if you want to be featured on the pod through our email, dillweedsociety@gmail.com, and feel free to share the pod or our website with your film friends. We'd love to hear from you or even have you on the pod. All right, now back to today's podcast.
I'm going to recommend, it's called Spin Me Around. It's a kind of comedy, weird, eccentric movie with starring Alison Brie and Aubrey Plaza. And it's like a fun, it's like kind of like, what's that Tom Cruise weird movie?
Top Gun.
No. Weird? You just was the first
tons of
Tom
weird
Cruise
movies.
movie to come to. Yeah.
Eyes Wide Shut.
Ew.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
that
like,
what you're thinking
it's
of?
like Eyes Wide Shut meets like Italy meets like Aubrey Plaza.
Interesting.
So-
I like her.
I know, I love both of them. That's why I wanted to see it. But it's not the best thing in the world. But it's interesting
Yeah.
to say the least.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna recommend that.
Interesting.
Next,
Okay.
do you have a recommendation?
I do. This past week, I saw 3,000 Years of Longing with Idris Elba and what's her name? Starts with a T. It does.
Tiana, Tia, blonde lady.
Yeah,
she's
she's
in
got a very
Narnia.
She is in Narnia. Tilda Swinton.
Tilda.
And Tilda Swinton. If you're looking for something that's kind of fantastical and interesting and sort of new, I would recommend it. Yeah.
We are literally just about to get into this tsunami of great movie season.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm really excited for
I am too. So we're going to be spending a lot of time at the theater.
Top Gun.
I did like Top Gun.
Yeah.
Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, I did. I'm going to just say, you know what? That Tom Cruise may be crazy, but he doesn't make a bad movie.
It's like that line from Glee. It's like, she may be difficult, but man, she can sing. Like, that's so true.
I'm telling you, that was just about the most perfectly executed movie. It hit every note. You know, it's like exactly all the throwback references that we all love from the original 80s, except it's like better than the original.
If they could have made an 80s movie, but like time traveled to now, it would be that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, and it fixed all the problematic parts of that 80s movie.
But it still had like the good problematic parts, like just like shirtless men. So like
frolicking on the beach.
Yeah, you know. Miles Teller.
Yeah.
Mustaches.
Yeah. It had all the great parts that we liked.
Yeah.
But it's, and you know, all the fights. I just feel like you really, at 10 out of 10. Oh, wait, we're on a 5 scale. 10 out of 5. So, Max, you gotta go see it.
Nah. I'll illegally stream it at some point.
You're just gonna you're gonna love it.
Okay.
It's literally impossible. And Miles Teller was fantastic.
I liked most of it. I will say the ending fight sequence was a little too real for me. I didn't like it. But
did it take you back to when you were in the fighter jet?
But I got PTSD, Mom. Oh my God. No.
Don't talk about it.
I can't. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was.
Well, ever since we pulled out of Afghanistan, we got all this extra money, the military. So they're putting it all into movies.
They're putting it all into movies.
And ads on Twitter.
I know. The Twitter military ads are insane.
You literally can't.
It looks like a Michael Bay film. Like, it's crazy.
Oh my God.
No, but it's literally like they're like, what are we going to do with all this extra money now that we're not in a war?
And now they're actually targeting to gamers because what are they going to do? They're just...
Well, I will tip my hat and say thank you for the movie because it was actually very good and entertaining.
Yeah, it was entertaining. Good job in the movie.
Well done.
Work on some other stuff.
Oh boy, so that's my recommendation. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on the show, you guys.
Thanks for coming on the show. Yeah. Please come again.
I love it.
We love movies.
Much. We do love movies.
We love movies. That's what we always say. We love movies.
We love movies. You know us. We need like a tagline.
Movies are our middle name.
Yeah, that's all we got for you today. Cheers to the next few months of great movies, hopefully, or maybe some bad ones.
And that's fun too.
That is really fun.
Good to talk about.
Yeah. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, it's the longest podcast we've ever